There is one skill which can have a significant impact on your professional career in corporate and in professional services, and this is telling stories with data. This is exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video. I will start first with sharing some theoretical foundations on the topic. Second, I will show how this applies to real-life examples. And third, I will share practical tips on how you can implement the learnings in PowerPoint. Big thanks to ThinkCell who supports firm learning by sponsoring this video. More about ThinkCell in a moment. They're a crucial tool for everyone working in professional services. I want to start by highlighting that the ability to tell stories with data matters. And there are countless books on this very topic describing all the techniques and also advantages of doing just that. And in this picture you see this stylized overview of what this is all about. You might start with data, and then it's your task as a professional to cut through this complexity, to sort the information, to arrange the information, at some point also to present it visually, but then of course also to explain a story. And as you can see in this picture, it is only once you have told a story that it really sticks, that people really can buy into it. And one insight I want to share with you here is that often people distinguish three different levels of insights. Three levels of insights that you can achieve with your analyses. It starts with facts. So facts are raw data points, unordered information, facts, right? So you have a big Excel spreadsheet with lots of numbers. These are the facts. And then most of us are able to consolidate the facts into some type of summary, right? Being an organized, condensed restatement of the facts. But the error that especially more unexperienced professionals do is that they stop here. They send a summary to someone and then more or less leave it to that person to understand and figure out what exactly this is supposed to mean. And so the third level of insight that is missing here, but is absolutely crucial for professional communication, is the synthesis. What does the summary really mean? What are the implications of what you are sharing? And there's an interesting scholar in this area called Brent Dykes who has a distinction that he makes. He distinguishes data telling from data storytelling. And if we match this together, data telling would be more about the summary, right? You're just repeating the facts, whereas the synthesis is the storytelling, explaining how certain facts fit into your recommendation, into an overarching narrative. So from all of this, we can conclude that successful storytelling with data relies on a set of factors: data, visualization, narrative, and an understanding of the audience. Only if you have a good understanding of your audience can you really succeed in these topics. And so for the remainder of the video, I want to discuss these principles based on some tangible examples. Some of them were provided by you from the community, so thanks to everyone who contributed something. Let me start with this chart which was sent to me. This is an overview of how the global market share for web browsers changed over time. Trust me, first of all, notice that this is not the nicest way of visualizing the data, right? It's not super intuitive to understand. And of course, we also all can see that the axis labels are just absolutely unreadable. So let's try together to think about how we can improve it and also how we can change such a slide to really share a narrative, share a story, which is hardly the case here. And so I loaded all of this into the PowerPoint plugin ThinkCell. And one of the functionalities that is provided here is that we are quickly able to change the chart type. So with such an overview, I'd likely not choose these 100% column charts, but probably more like a line chart. So this might be the first thing we want to do. Now we can see a new visualization of the data, which I personally find already superior in many ways to what we've seen a second ago. Now I cleaned up the chart a bit. I toned down the colors. I included a chart title. If you don't know what that is, I talked about it elsewhere. It's a simple element that talks about what it actually is that you're looking at. But now the main question I'd like to ask you as well, what you actually want to say here, right? So what is your story? What is your narrative? And this is exactly what you should think about if we are talking about storytelling with data. And well, maybe it is the great success story of the Chrome web browser that we clearly see here in the numbers. If this is what you want to talk about, make sure that you adjust the visualization accordingly. So in this example, I now bolded the line of Chrome. You can see that I added a different color to it, I added a logo to it to really make it stand out, to focus on this narrative in the data visualization. And also notice how I added an action title, your title element on top of the slide, focusing on this very narrative. So if you don't know what action titles are, I will link above another video of me talking in detail about action titles, a very important chart element indeed. But what if this is actually not the main narrative that you want to push and you're rather presenting maybe in front of a group of Apple users and want to highlight the current position of the Safari web browser? Well, then let's change the chart accordingly. Of course, you now want to rather frame the message around Safari. Maybe you want to talk about how Apple managed to defend the 20% market share of Safari despite the dominance of Chrome. So let's highlight the Safari browser a bit more. Let's maybe also add a logo. And now we can use ThinkCell to support this also in the chart. Let's bold the line of Safari, and let's also add a little bit more distinct color to focus on just that. Hope you agree that now this new narrative is much more present, pops much more, and of course is quite different from what we talked about a moment ago with Chrome being the dominant browser. All of the charts are created for today's video were created with the PowerPoint plugin ThinkCell, and ThinkCell is also sponsoring today's video. I'm extremely excited about that because I personally absolutely love ThinkCell. I use it almost every day myself. The statistics are absolutely insane. 9 of the top 10 business schools use ThinkCell. This includes Harvard, Stanford, also INSEAD, the school where I completed my MBA. In addition, all 10 of the top 10 global consulting firms are actively using ThinkCell. This includes firms such as Boston Consulting Group. So learning ThinkCell is a great time invest because likely whatever your role is going forward, you will need to make use of the tool, so why not start learning it right now? Personally, I first learned about it as a university student. So if you are currently studying in business, in engineering, in data science, math, physics, or any other data-driven discipline, I can recommend you to use ThinkCell to just communicate the results of your analyses, to tell stories with data the right way. And it is my pleasure to announce that ThinkCell has launched a new program for everyone in academia. So if you are currently a student, or if you are currently a professor, or if you are a PhD student, or any other person working in an academic institution, ThinkCell extends the ThinkCell license to you for free for the duration of your studies. So if this is of interest to you, check out the link in the video description to access ThinkCell for free in the new academics program. But of course, if you are a professional, I also negotiated a special deal for you, and this is that you get access to an extended 60-day free trial to ThinkCell. This is far longer than the regular trial. You can get access to that with the link in the video description as well. There are no credit cards required to sign up, no other hidden costs. Check out this ThinkCell offer, it will be very much worth your time. Let's now look at a second slide example. First of all, thanks to the person delivering this. And here I want to talk a little bit more about the narrative and how you can support that with strong slides as well. So this is here a slide talking about expansion, also from a business school academic context. And here notice how there are two parts to the slide to some extent, right? So there's an analysis how this company grew in the past. It talks about internal needs, it talks about external opportunities, and then here also a chart talking about the expansion, showing how the numbers changed over time. So when I look at a slide like this, to me this seems like a collage. So let's try to improve a slide like this, and let's maybe focus a bit more on this data part. So let's start by a strong action title, highlighting the strong growth that we found here, and also highlighting what the share of acquisitions was that maybe plays a role. Let's include here a simple bar chart. These chart types work for a lot of different things that we want to show. And here now I just copied over the data that I found in this very text table that we saw on the prior slide. So this is what we have here, right? A chart. Now you can see also here that the numbers are quite long with lots of digits, but this level of detail is often not needed for analysis like this. So let's rather round this to millions. And to do this, we can leverage ThinkCell as well. We can now divide the numbers by a certain factor to give us the result that we want. Now, of course, we want to look at proper formatting and also colors as well. So we'll use the very same coloring technique we saw earlier. But now let's think of the narrative. Let's think about what we actually want to show here. What is the point that we want to stress? And maybe this is about the very significant growth that this company experienced here. And so ThinkCell does offer different ways for you to make it easy to include messages like this. So one thing we might want to include here is a difference arrow. So an arrow indicating now the growth of this company. And let's maybe only focus on the organic growth. And if I select this, it directly calculates the right number that we want to include here. And this is now, of course, a number we can also pick up in the chart title. Now you have here a column available to the right where you can focus on the implications. So what does all of this mean? Here, make sure that you're really focusing on implications and not just some random points which are not really connected to each other at all. Let's start with this slide example, which I want to use to highlight some topics relevant to data visualization. Now I want to work together with you to improve this very slide. I want to especially focus on the chart creation. So here on the different diagrams here in the middle. So let's start by making it all left aligned. Indeed. And now let's start by including a diagram. Here the first one on the left. This is where ThinkCell can come in quite handy. Here in the ThinkCell menu you can choose a chart type that you want to use. And let's copy in the data that we have seen a moment ago and let's add a proper legend to these items as well. Now to make everything properly aligned, you can actually also left align the labels. Now with ThinkCell you can also use the legend to choose the colors. I would always recommend you to choose rather toned down colors. Let's now also include an element to highlight the millennials color, maybe such a shading here. So let's compare this to how it looked earlier. I hope you agree that this already looks much cleaner, much more professional. So let's now work on this medium chart. So here the one thing that is definitely quite disturbing is that here they're talking about two very different things, the generations and then something like income brackets, without really explaining this. And maybe include something like boxes like this to just explain what the two categories are all about. And now we can think about the right chart type to add. And then it might look something like this. For color coding, I suggest to use toned down colors and distinguish the positive from the negatives. And now we can, of course, include here some nice shades as well. These are the segments you would consider most relevant for this smart mirror project of yours. Let's now talk about the third chart type here to the right. So this collection of bar charts. Let's include here again a bar chart and though now aggregate the numbers based on the generational split that we have been using throughout the presentation so far. So the boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. Something that likely will stick more with your audience than just collecting lots of facts and then potentially also not stressing the right information points that we've seen in this very chart. Now I'd love to learn from you. Do you have any tips on how to tell stories with data? Let us know in the comments. Trust we can all learn from that. Also big thanks again to ThinkCell for sponsoring this video. If you are involved in academia, either as a student or a staff member, with the link in the video description, you can get access to ThinkCell for free with the brand new ThinkCell Academics program. If you are a professional, with the link you will get an extended free trial, which I negotiated for you here in the community. If you already worked with ThinkCell in the past, let me know in the comments as well. If you took any value out of this video at all, please like and subscribe to the channel. Big thanks to all the members of the channel as well. Thanks for your support. My name is Heinrich. I release weekly videos here on the channel. So see you again next week. All the best to you.